And this speech was boring. Attendees, as they were leaving the ballroom, they were struck by how dull, how tiresome it was, how it was a snooze fest. And that is probably embarrassing for the president.
So I can't say I'm exactly surprised, but the folks over at CNN are having a complete crash out over President Trump's joke about Kaitlan Collins at the White House Correspondents Dinner last night. And we are hearing the typical slogans of libtard concern trolling. Shocking, appalling, horrifying. Can you believe he said this? Can you believe that? At an event that's historically been basically a comedy roast by the president? How dare Trump violate our Democrat norms by telling a joke? You know, these are the same people who criticized Trump for years for not showing up to this event. Then when he shows up and does basically what every president has done since about the 1970s at this event, this is unacceptable behavior. This is unpresidential. We'll talk about it today, folks. It's pretty hilarious. But let me just say, there is not a more thin-skinned group of individuals out there than mainstream media journalists, which is hilarious because these people laud themselves and are constantly self-aggrandizing. The free press, we're the real warriors. We're speaking truth to power. We're standing up. We're talking about reality and truth, and we're finding things out in all of this. And then, of course, after building a long profession on just constantly criticizing and attacking people and trying to bring them down, you say the slightest thing about them. Trump makes a joke at the media's expense, and what do we hear? This is an attack on the free press and an important institution of democracy in America. This is completely unacceptable. Sure, all we do all day long is mudsling and just spread gossip and slander most of the time, but you made a joke about us? Unacceptable, right? Like, the completely obnoxious, elitist, and fundamentally extremely sensitive people. But nonetheless, let's talk about it here today, guys. First, though, do us a favor. If you enjoy our content, make sure you hit that like button down below. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. That is the best way to support our work, and it also ensures that you can stay up to date with all of the latest news and coverage. And that said, we did play it in our recap video last night, but just to briefly remind everyone, here was the joke about Kaitlan Collins that has stirred up all of the, I don't even want to call it controversy because it's not controversy. It's just performative concern trolling is all it is today by CNN.
But they'll learn their lesson. But I want to personally congratulate CNN's Kaitlan Collins on receiving her award. It was all about me. It's a fake. She shouldn't get the award. It was a fake, but I didn't mind. I said, Kaitlin, congratulations. But it was fake. There's no question about it. But she's a young, attractive woman. She never smiles. I said, Kaitlin, do you have a smile? Smile. You have a nice position. You're at CNN Fake News. You should be a happy person. So smile, Kaitlin. Just smile. But we attack, and I thought Kaitlin had really made it big with a major new sponsorship, but then I informed her that it wasn't her on the Bud Light can, it was Dylan Mulvaney. And Dylan Mulvaney cost Bud Light $35 billion in market cap.
Yeah, so remember that, guys. Well, let's now get ready for CNN's predictably hysterical reaction to this, because that was arguably the funniest joke that Trump told the entire night. But obviously, given the fact that, oh, first of all, he targeted CNN, and we know how they respond again, thin-skinned journalists, but also, Dylan Mulvaney, to which I have to say, I don't actually understand why that's offensive. According to you, trans women are women, so is it therefore not a problem to compare a trans woman to a woman, right? What's the issue, right? It's no different than saying, hey, you know, Kaitlan Collins, you look just like, I don't know, Sydney Sweeney or someone like that, right? Some like standard of female beauty, because after all, let's not forget, apparently Dylan Mulvaney is a standard of female beauty. So I don't actually understand the problem here, but you know, of course we know what supposed supporters of trans rights do when you implicate even jokingly that they might be trans, you know, kind of transphobic reaction there. But anyways, here was the apparently group text message that CNN, for some strange strange reason, made the decision to air on the screen while this was happening. So here is the kind of conversation going back and forth between the CNN editors. Trump does sometimes implicitly acknowledge that he sees corrections. Okay. And then goes on. Here's the first text message about Kaitlan Collins. Quote, "That was an appalling hit at our colleague, Kaitlan Collins." Did I tell you, right? Appalling. Can you believe? Unbelievable. All the things they've said about Trump. But hey, you made a joke at a comedy roast that Kaitlan Collins looks like a transgender person, right? How dare you? Again, what's wrong with looking like a transgender person? Anyways, this attack on our colleague Kaitlan Collins is absurd as it is false. Her reporting of Zelensky's Oval Office visit was outstanding. So now they're fact-checking the whole thing, Trump saying she won a fake award, right? Actually, the fact-checkers and experts are saying that award was real. How utterly pathetic and, again, sensitive these people are. It's kind of hysterical to witness. And then, by the way, they wonder why there are so many attacks, there's so much ridicule that comes toward the supposed free press, right? When you're sitting here fact-checking an obvious joke, the award was real. Okay, yeah, give me a freaking break. And then actually Daniel Dale here actually comes in here to do another fact check. Fact check. Kaitlin smiles. Very friendly person. Just appropriately serious when doing her job. Yeah, these people are just completely flailing and losing their minds. You talked about us. You said something mean about us. It's the end of the freaking world, right? So here's the meltdown going on in the group chat. Another guy says, when jokes go from infrequent to unfunny to offensive, can you believe that he would say something like this? How are these people real? Isn't their entire job at sometimes to go report in supposed war zones and things like that? I mean, we understand a lot of times that's fake too, right? They put on the helmet to make it look dramatic. At the end of the day, a lot of these mainstream media journalists are effectively failed theater kids, but it's just so funny, right? You know, you can apparently supposedly go and do stuff like that, but an offensive joke. Oh my gosh, do you believe it? By the way, I hate to do the whole double standard thing, but I would just like to remind everyone, because we probably haven't seen this event happen in a long time, that yes, indeed, Trump's behavior at the White House Correspondents Dinner, making fun of members of the media. And by the way, not just the media, he joked about Democrats. He made jokes at his own expense. He messed around with RFK in his own cabinet, okay? Yeah, the whole thing is, I repeat, basically historically used as a comedy roast by the president. After all, let's remember what Obama famously did at many of his iconic White House Correspondents' dinners.
I am releasing my official birth video. Oh well. Back to square one. I want to make clear to the Fox News table, that was a joke. That was not my real birth video. That was a children's cartoon. Donald Trump is here tonight. Now, I know that he's taken some flack lately, but no one is happier, no one is prouder to put this birth certificate matter to rest than the Donald. And that's because he can finally get back to focusing on the issues that matter. Like, did we fake the moon landing? What really happened in Roswell? And where are Biggie and Tupac?
So yeah, guys, can you believe these uncalled for, unprecedented attacks, horrifying, appalling, that Obama made towards Fox News? Any criticism of the free press is an attack on American democracy itself. That's what they say, right? How dare he say that about Trump? That's personal. Dude, it's a freaking comedy roast. How many times do we have to say that? Okay? This is the whole thing. And you could say, oh, but he joked about Kaitlan Collins' appearance. Okay, again, it's a comedy roast, and objectively, it was funny. All right? I don't know what else you want me to say about that. It's a joke. Calm your you-know-what. Seriously. But okay, so anyways, CNN is now trying to do a new pivot because they understand that not the rest of American society is as sensitive and thin-skinned as your average journalist in America. So the new talking point is no longer that, oh, well, that was hurtful or mean, but rather that the joke flopped. And their excuse for why the joke flopped is that not a lot of people in the room were laughing. Now, I guarantee you a bunch of people watching online thought that that joke was hilarious, but of course, why might the people in that room not find it all that funny? Well, first of all, I'd point out that I did hear quite a few people laughing hysterically, very loudly, but sure, it is true. Sounded like a huge part of the room was quiet. I wonder why that could be the case. I wonder if maybe because Brian Stelter, you were not the audience for the joke, you were the subject of the joke. And again, because you people are thin-skinned and sensitive, you can't laugh at yourself. Why? Because you're egotistical, narcissistic grandstanders. All you do is self-aggrandize. And so, yeah, obviously, the self-own that this really is. Journalists admitting that they are too sensitive to take jokes at their own expense, even though their entire job is basically criticizing other people. Oh yeah, go figure. But apparently they believe this to be a talking point. Take a listen.
With us now, CNN's chief media analyst, Brian Stelter. Stelter, good morning to you. My question here is anybody surprised? Is anybody who was there surprised by what he said? Any surprise at the reaction that it received in the room? I mean, if you were to ask AI, how's the White House Correspondents Dinner going to go? This is probably what you'd get back.
Well, a couple of things about that. You know, Trump did flop, and he knew he was flopping in real time, and he tried to joke his way out of how badly it was going, and even that failed, too. So he was widely ridiculed for that afterward. And no, that's not surprising. You know, he is not known for his comedy routines. But I would say if you don't watch a Trump speech very often, this was surprising because it was so underwhelming. There was so much weaving and rambling going on.
Yeah, chief media analyst for CNN, by the way. Can I just first of all point out that is the fakest job title of all time? That is arguably even faker than Kaitlan Collins' award. But still, regardless, apparently now this is breaking news to me, but we got to listen because that's the chief media analyst, right? He's an analyst. That means he knows what he's talking about. Apparently, Trump's not known for comedy routines. He's never done that. He's not known, even by people who don't really like him, as one of the funnier presidents that we've had. No, actually, Trump is just straight edge, total square. You know, that's who he is. But again, he's bald and he's wearing a suit, so he knows what he's talking about. Now they're going to come after me. Can you believe what horrifying things conservative internet figures are saying about the free press in America? He called Brian Stelter bald. Like, are we going to do this, you know? But okay, again, Mr. Chief Media Analyst, since you're such an analyst, why don't you analyze why maybe the jokes in that room, which through the internet and through the base were perceived to be quite funny, why might they have fallen flat in that room? Absolutely zero self-awareness here, right? Do you understand that's the whole thing? You know, he's joking about you, he's roasting you, and very tellingly, you not only can't learn to laugh at yourself because you are miserable, egotistical, self-aggrandizing people, and that's generally a, honestly, personality trait of just the worst absolute scumbag people out there, the ones who can't laugh at themselves, who are extremely sensitive. Absolutely true. Secondly, by the way, I don't know if you remember this, Brian, but a big reason the speech was toned down was because of the fact that a left-wing terrorist radicalized by mainstream media tried to go and assassinate people at the White House Correspondents Dinner, that of course including Trump himself, so he didn't want to get too divisive with it. You know, the very same assassination attempt that you famously thought was just some plates falling on the ground, you know? Why was it so muted? Why wasn't it more aggressive? But then in a contradiction here, goes on to further say, oh, well, he tried to joke his way out of how bad it was going. That failed too. Not surprising. It's probably embarrassing for the president. The more resentful it got, the more the audience tuned it out. Okay, again, do you understand? You're not really the audience here. You're more of the subject matter. He's not making jokes for you. You know, the point wasn't to laugh with him, right? We're laughing at you. Do you understand that? And because you can't laugh at yourself, you know, that's why you sat there. Everyone there sitting in the room miserable like this. I can't believe you would say that about me. You know? So just something to keep in mind about journalists, you know. Anyways, though, it doesn't stop. Apparently, CNN Communications, they even put out a whole statement about this, okay? About Trump joking that Kaitlan Collins looks like Dylan Mulvaney and the award was fake. Here's what it said. Quote, "We stand by our journalists and the integrity and fair-mindedness with which CNN reports the news. Honest, accurate journalism may sometimes irritate politicians, but our right to report and present that reporting to the public without government interference is fully protected by the U.S. Constitution. CNN will continue to exercise this right." So, of course, when you hear something like this, you're probably thinking that the government is engaged in some type of systemic crackdown against free speech or the press or something like that, you know, because it's written in that tone, right? We're going to keep on telling the truth or something. No, actually, all Trump did was basically make a joke about your network, and this is their over-the-top, insane response, right? Honest, accurate journalism may sometimes irritate politicians. Well, I can think of some things that may irritate journalists, such as lighthearted, hilarious jokes at their own expense, right? But, you know, again, the lack of self-awareness, the thin-skinned sensitivity of these people. What else can we say? It's pretty funny to watch. So everyone sit there and laugh, okay? Everyone call Brian Stelter bald because apparently, you know, like small things like the small things like this really do get on their nerves, apparently, you know? That's how you break a journalist. I don't know, apparently. Just make minor jokes at their expense and they just start melting like the Wicked Witch of the West or something, right? But anyways, again, apparently, according to CNN, free speech in the Constitution is under attack because Trump, with his own free speech, said that CNN won a fake award and Kaitlan Collins looks like a transgender. Okay. Very serious journalism, by the way. You know, this is the behavior of a network doing serious journalism. Anyways, that said, let me know your thoughts. Be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you are new. And until next time, God bless and peace.